Today's event was a little bit off schedule, but starting next month, we are going to be back to our normal schedule of the third Wednesday of the month. I put the link to that in the chat. The registration's already open, so it's going to be 3 weeks from today. You can go and register for that right now. It is going to be Cedars-Sinai Wilshire with Smith Group. And then a couple other things that we have in the planning stages right now for May. We're pretty excited. We're going to try to do a virtual tour, so breaking up our traditional meetings that we've been doing over Zoom. It's going to be the Children's Village. So keep an eye out for that. And then in June, it looks like we're going to be doing Hollywood Presbyterian with HKS and KMD. So going forward with today's event, today's was in collaboration with the AIAOC, which we're really excited to start that partnership going forward. So thank you to Deidre and everyone who helped get this started today, and any guests we have from the OC. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Deidre to introduce our speakers today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deidre McGee, with co-chair with the AIA Orange County Healthcare Group, and we are equally excited to be participating in this event. Thank you for letting us get you off schedule a little bit so we could get our act together and help keep some of the virtual content going after this long year. Today, we have Dr. Lauren Brand, who is the Director of Operations with Be Well Orange County, and Darcy Hernandez, the Principal and Southern California Regional Director for Boulder Associates, to share Be Well's strategies for destigmatizing access to mental health care, to share their recently completed Orange County campus, and share the kind of nuanced design needs for behavioral and mental health care, as well as what's up next for Be Well OC. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Brand to get us started.
Thank you. Darcy, oh yeah, there we go. Right on cue. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting us to present. And this is a kind of an unusual audience for me. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. And this project has been really amazing for me to be part of. So I know that some of you have already heard a little bit about the Be Well movement. And I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to give you a snapshot of it so that if you aren't familiar with it, you have an understanding of the importance of this campus that we're going to be talking about in the bigger context of what we're doing in Orange County. So go ahead and go to the slide that has the Be Well piece on it, Darcy.
Okay, just like I'm having slide issues already. Oh, there we go. Thanks.
And then go
one more.
There we go. Okay. So for those that aren't familiar or that aren't in the mental health arena, so mental health and substance use issues are one of the most prevalent, these are the most prevalent medical conditions that are in our world right now. 20% of people living here in Orange County will experience a mental health disorder in any given year, 20%. So it's really something that touches all of us. In Orange County, to get care for mental health or substance use, it is really difficult. The system here is fragmented, it's difficult to navigate. We lack critical services for areas that are needed, for crisis care, for residential treatment. The mental health care field in Orange County is really needing some intervention. And so in 2018, Be Well was created, and it was created after a group of leaders in the healthcare field came together to talk about some of these challenges that we're seeing in mental health care in Orange County. And out of these discussions, Be Well was created. And Be Well is not an organization, it's actually a movement. It's a community-wide effort to create a better system of care for mental health in Orange County, to build a better mental health care system, it really takes a village. It takes more than a village. And we've been able to move mountains to be able to bring together public, private, academic, and faith-based organizations to be able to work together in a way that's never been done before in this county. You can see on this slide that the vision of Be Well is to lead the nation in optimal mental health and wellness for all residents. No pressure. It's a pretty lofty goal, but we know that if we don't transform the system of care in Orange County and we don't work together to do it, people will continue to suffer. And there are lots of people that are out there waiting for care and needing the services that they really have difficulty accessing. Go ahead to the next one. Next slide. So for the campus was developed in a very unique partnership. And I know Darcy may say something about this as well. We've been able to bring together the public and private healthcare system to invest in building this Be Well campus. So in addition to the public Orange County Healthcare Agency, which is the county system, and CalOptima, also part of the county system, we've been able to bring into the movement funding from Kaiser, from Hoag, from the Providence system, St. Joe's and St. Joe's Health, St. Jude Medical Center, and Memorial Care. And this is the first time that really the public and private systems have come together to fund something in a collaborative process. So Darcy, did you want to add something about the slide? Because I know there's more partners on there than just what I read off.
No, I'm going to talk a little bit about the partners later too, but I mean, it is an amazing group of folks, and how MindOC and Be Well has created this movement by bringing all these folks together and navigating various systems in order to bring them together and accomplish something under the same goal. It's been incredibly rewarding to watch you guys develop as an organization, MindOC, to create the Be Well movement.
Thank you. So this slide, this is actually a rendering of what the building looked like. We created this before it opened. It looks very much like this, as you'll see from the pictures that come up. But the Be Well campus is the first of 3 wellness campuses that we're building through the Be Well movement. And this campus serves as a cornerstone in building the system of mental health care, this first-class system of care that we're building, that will be the new reality for Orange County, where we have a mental health care system that is the highest level, top quality care, and has accessibility that we don't have right now. This building is the physical manifestation of the Be Well movement. It's a very, very important, exciting milestone in what we're trying to achieve. So the campus opened in January, and the programs are, we put the slide together to just show you the names of the programs, but another unique aspect of what was created here is that we have co-located services in one building. So there are different levels of care for mental health and substance use treatment, and there are also different providers that are running the different programs. So if you think about the programs that are at the Be Well campus, there's 2 categories. The first is the mental health related programs, and then the others are the substance use treatment focused programs. And in this building, we have 2 firsts. One of them is the recovery sobering station. So this is the first sobering station in Orange County. And we have a pretty large population, and there is nowhere for people to go that are intoxicated, other than most of the time they're going to an emergency room or they're going to jail. And though for someone who's just intoxicated or is high and just needs some kind of safe place to stabilize, the sobering station is really the ideal place for that. And then the crisis stabilization units. So this is the first floor of this building is, think of it as in almost like an emergency level of care. So this is instead of someone going into an emergency room when they're in a mental health crisis. So if you think about someone who is in a mental health crisis, they may be confused, they may be suicidal, they're having their worst day. And then most of the time they're taken into an emergency room and it's loud and it's noisy. They don't get care often for many, many hours. Sometimes it's more than a day. They're sitting in this brightly lit room, sometimes on a gurney in the hallway or on a chair, and not receiving care for a very long time. So in this program, people can come in and they can get seen, assessed, and medicated within about 30 minutes. And then they can begin to stabilize. And it is with staff that are specially trained and can assess what's the next thing that they need. And then the next step for them may be something that's already in the building. So maybe it's a residential program to help them to continue stabilizing for their mental health condition, or maybe it's one of the other residential programs that deals with if they have also an addiction or some form of substance use treatment program. So it's very unusual to have all of these types and different levels of programs in one building. And we've been able to, in a pretty small space, the building is 60,000 square feet, to build a mini continuum of care that will treat, when it's at full capacity, there will be about 100 patients that go through here in a day. And then with patients and staff and all of the support staff, you're talking about close to 400 people in and out of this building on a daily basis. So go ahead to the next one, Darcy.
That was a great introduction. I love listening to you speak about the mission and the vision and the different types of clients and consumers that are utilizing these services. This is the location for the campus, folks. It's located kind of off I-5 and 57 near the UCI Medical Center. You can see it off the freeway as you're headed south on I-5. And the property there, the campus is originally and is currently owned by the County of Orange, and they had an administrative building on the site. And they had looked at potentially converting it to support mental health services at one point in time. And then as Mind OC evolved, there became an opportunity to work together in a public-private partnership to really develop this property to support a more comprehensive mental health program. And because the property is owned by the County of Orange, it actually falls under the County of Orange jurisdiction. It is in the City of Orange, and we did work pretty closely with the City of Orange from a fire review standpoint. Is there anything about the location you want to add, Lauren?
Yeah, the land under the building is what's owned by the county. The actual building is owned by Mind OC, which is the nonprofit that I'm hired by. And it's the nonprofit that powers and advances the Be Well movement. But the building is owned by the investors that invested in the building, and it's owned by us, all of us, because it's funded partially by county funds. And it's also funded by our hospital healthcare system in Orange County. So people who come to this campus for care, anyone can come here if they're an Orange County resident. They can come here if they have Medi-Cal, they can come here if they have Kaiser insurance, if they have private insurance. The building is really for anyone, regardless of what their payer source is.
Yeah, that was such an important part of the vision, is the payer agnostic, and that you found ways to support all clients. This is the site here, and you can see the building. The site is small; it's just over 2 acres, and so it's tucked up against the 57. And so there were some limitations with how much building footprint we could get. And you heard Lauren say it was just about 60,000 square feet. And so with that in mind, we had to kind of be thoughtful about the design. And so the design concept started around this notion of kind of wrapping services around a central courtyard. And the courtyard started to be kind of the heart of the building, and it was able to really orientate the programs around it. And it gave kind of, as you're walking through the building, you've got that orientation of the central courtyard as you move through it. And there is the landscape concept. Because this is a very urban site, we had limited ability to provide exterior opportunities, so we had to be pretty thoughtful about that. The landscape is focused around kind of creating these outdoor seating niches and areas to really interact and socialize. There's an olive tree located in the center of the courtyard with a raised planter bed that helps to create kind of some privacy and division amongst that courtyard. And then with the limited site, we also took advantage of some patios on the upper floor. We built out some patios to support some of the residential functions, and there is some landscaping and trees and even a water feature on the second floor patio to help kind of mitigate some of the acoustical noise or provide variation from the freeway that runs adjacent to it. But those provided some great communal opportunities. Lauren, is there anything you want to add about the site and the landscaping?
No, not to this one. Thanks, Darcy.
Sure. So this is the exterior. You can see the view here a little bit, and it does match that rendering that Lauren showed. The project started in 2018 as MindOC was forming, and the initial work that started in June was really around kind of the study of, okay, what could this project support? What is the operational and business needs? It wasn't until October that we really started doing some design work, and that was by October that started to be led by Hogue Refco and then the MindOC team to really start to understand how the building could come together. And we explored ideas like a modular solution. Ultimately, we ended up with the tilt-up concrete building that you see on the presentation. And by the fall kind of time frame, when we were gearing up for design, we started to integrate in the County of Orange to talk through how this would get permitted, and then we, with the target of being able to complete the construction by January 2020, which we just completed the building in January 2020. There's still a little bit of loose ends that we're working through as we speak and as the building becomes operationalized. And this is the project team. MindOC really led the team from the design standpoint. Hogue Refco was heavily involved, as well as Orange County Healthcare Agency. They sat in on all the design meetings and provided a lot of insight on services and how things should operate. Kellenberg Studios was involved, and then Idea Hall, who does all of the Be Well branding and communications, was heavily involved as well. California Commercials helped run the project from the very beginning. They helped operationalize, and they are now maintaining the building. And then HB&A and Snyder Langston supported the construction effort. We had a strong relationship with the OC Development Services. They were involved throughout the entire process. And all of our engineers and consultants were, of course, part of the day-to-day of the design. When we started the project, there wasn't anything locally that was exactly like what MindOC and the Be Well movement was trying to accomplish, but we did study some other local resources and toured facilities. The Orange County Recovery Institute, which is located in Orange, is a small campus of about 3 buildings that supports crisis residential. They have a community kind of education building that supports peer counseling and social services, and then they connect the community with educational opportunities that are actually run through the Santiago Community College. So that was a great campus to look at and to study. We also visited the Riverside University Health System, which the Riverside County actually runs the mental health urgent care there. And it was nice to see a crisis stabilization center that really focused on developing kind of this arts and crafts feel that provided a more home-like setting and was less institutional than many of the other crisis stabilization and county centers. So the building is about 60,000 square feet, and the programs here, just to kind of organize them, are one, the crisis programs, which Lauren spoke about earlier in the presentation, and we'll see how those start to lay out. The residential programs, there are 4 different residential programs that support care depending on the specific treatment that's needed. And then there are support spaces within the building that really help to maintain treatment even after residential care, that become resources to community, education classrooms, a gym, social services, which help connect patients to housing and jobs, and then of course one-on-one counseling. Lauren, do you want to add anything to these programs?
So I just want to say that that having all of this in one building is very, very unusual. It's a model that's not really out there in a lot of places. One of the programs that Darcy showed on the previous slide, where there were a lot of these services, but yeah, they're all a bunch of different buildings. That's more of what you see out there, is a large multi-building campus like that. But to have it all within a building and in the size of the space that we have is pretty unusual. So it's a significant milestone for the mental health community here in Orange County.
And this starts to show kind of how the building is organized. So the first floor really is dedicated to the crisis stabilization and the support systems. And those services are kind of divided between the lobby and the courtyard. And on the first floor, we've got 16 recliners that support adult crisis stabilization and 8 recliners that support adolescents. These services, as well as the sober detox unit, these services are supported with a garage that allows for EMS and ambulance to escort patients to the campus. And then on the opposite side of the lobby and the courtyard, there are support services that support the education, social services, group therapy, and exercise and engagement. The upper floors are dedicated to the residential units, withdrawal management program, substance use, co-occurring disorder, and then the crisis residential. All the units, as you see as we walk through the floor plans, are very similar in the design and concept. And this was the vision and goal for the project, and a lot of this stems from the vision and goal of Be Well and what they were trying to accomplish in terms of really creating something very different from any other mental health model that was out there. And their dedication and focus to destigmatizing mental health services, was reflective in the design and the concepts that were used in this building. I think some other really important pieces were the outdoor connectivity. And while we had limited site, we worked really hard to try to maintain that connectivity of the outdoor spaces. And then because this is a private public partnership and there were a lot of investors in this building, a value-based design was really important too. We had to justify all of the spending and making sure that we're creating the most value for the community. The logo and branding played a big part of the design vision. That was a development from Idea Hall, but I think we picked up on that from the aspects of the design, playing off like the colors and something really vibrant and welcoming into the facility. Lauren, go ahead and jump in and add about kind of the vision and goals from an operational standpoint.
When we think of this building, when we think about how you treat people who need these levels of care, you think about what are all the tools that you can bring in to help them. So you bring in well-trained staff, you bring in different theoretical orientations and tools and workbooks and healthy food and fitness and all that kind of stuff. And then we forget about the importance of the environment as the impact of the environment on someone's recovery. The Be Well campus is the actual physical campus is an instrument of the healing and recovery that happens with the people who are getting care there. The design of the building is a significant contributing factor to healing. The way that it's designed, so Darcy touched on when law enforcement often bring people to a program like this, particularly to that crisis level of care, So they're often brought in by sheriff or PD, sometimes by ambulance. And often they're brought into the front of the building. They're carried in a gurney, and they're in front of people. There's no dignity in it. And there was a garage that was built as the law enforcement or first responder entryway, as a flow-in entry point to the crisis units. So when someone comes in, a police vehicle or an ambulance drives into a garage, the doors close, and the person gets out of the vehicle and goes directly in front of them into one of two doors, either into the sobering station or into the crisis units. And if you're in the parking lot, you don't see any of that happening because it's happening in this very respectful garage entry point. The other piece of this campus being an instrument of recovery is there's a lot of windows and light. The colors and the design are all designed to bring light into the building and to have a feeling on the first floor of this indoor-outdoor space. We'll show some images, some pictures that where, yeah, there it is, where you can see this is, so what you don't see on the right of this is there's a lobby entryway with the doors that you saw in the picture before. And then the lobby leads through into this outdoor courtyard where doors can be open and you have this really beautiful indoor-outdoor space. This doesn't look or feel like any hospital or facility or psychiatric institution that I've ever been in. And that's the whole point, is to use the building to provide a different experience. The stigma piece, there's so much stigma around mental health treatment. You hardly ever hear someone saying, oh, my family member went into care at so-and-so facility for because they were suicidal or because they were an alcoholic. Most of the time you don't hear that at all. But what you do hear, what you may hear, is someone saying, my family member went to Hoag for heart surgery, and they're saying it with pride, like they went to Hoag. And what we want is to have a campus where someone will say, my family member went to Be Well to get care for their addiction or to get care for their depression, and to say it with pride. And when people walk in, there's a balance in the design between dignity and safety. So we wanted people to feel like they walk in and they're proud to be there, and it feels nice and it looks nice, and recovery begins the minute you pull into the parking lot. And we also needed it to be safe. So everything is anti-ligature. All of the fixtures are behavioral health level. Everything is thought about and mindful around safety and security. The whole building is secured. You can't get in anywhere without a security badge. And all of these measures are put into place to keep people safe and to make sure that they're safe during their treatment. And yet there's a lot of dignity in how the design was put together. So people flow in, the way that people flow into the campus is the first level of the building is the most critical care level. And then as they go to the second floor and the third floor, the level of care goes less acute. So as you literally move up the building, you also move up in your health and healing and wellness and independence.
And you can see here, this was the first level. And so the blue, the side on the top of the page there, that is all of the crisis programs. This is the garage where EMS bring patient or clients into the building. The lighter blue is the sober detox unit, and then the darker blue are the adolescent and adult crisis stabilization. The areas in yellow are all of the support functions that support the building, the residential programs, and the clients even after treatment, as well as staff, because the folks who care for these people, having beautiful spaces for recovery and respite is really important as well. Here's the lobby that Lauren kind of referred to, and you can see the slider beyond here, and that's the courtyard beyond. So even when the front door is secured and closed for access, you can open this back door and allow for ventilation to come through, and then, you know, this lobby really becomes very connected with the outside. And just having that ventilation come through is just peaceful and very different from many other institutional facilities. There are consult rooms that are just tucked right here off of the main lobby, easy to access, so you can reach a provider as soon as you walk in the door. This doesn't have the film on it because we've taken this photo before all the final kind of film was done, but this glazing does have a branded film on it to create a little more privacy, but also connectivity to the lobby. And this is the Crisis Stabilization Center. And I think the thing that when people think about crisis stabilization, or not people, but particularly architects, I think, healthcare architects, when we think about crisis stabilization, we tend to think of it like an emergency room with bays and curtains and beds. And this is very different from that. It's a different kind of model of care, and the clients are treated in the recliner, and it's an open space, and the recliner is more comforting, more home-like than being on a gurney in an emergency department. And you can interact with your peers, and you have treatment right there as soon as you walk in. And so it's very easy to see everyone, to visualize what is going on, and to care for these patients in a different way than you would like in an emergency room.
Yeah, one other thing that was very cleverly put into this unit is, you can see in this picture, it looks very, very bright. All of the lights are dimmable, and that may not seem like an important detail, but for someone who's in a mental health crisis, to walk into a room that's super brightly lit like this is very, very overstimulating, and it's not calming and soothing at all, even if the lighting is softer lighting. So for different portions of the day, the staff do utilize the dimming of the lights, and certain portions of this area will be dimmed when others aren't. For this level of care, Ron, I see a question that came through of how long clients are there for. For this level of care, it's up to 24 hours. That's it. It's very, very short stay. And they're there just to get an assessment, stabilize, potentially get started or on medication, or get a medication adjustment. And then they're being assessed for what's next. So most people who come into, most people that have a mental health crisis and are taken to an emergency room, about 80% of those people, if they came to a unit like this, could stabilize within that 24-hour period and go back to their lives. And then for the 20% who need a little bit extra to be able to be fully functional again, the other levels of care in the building are there to help them. And then for what we don't have in the building, part of the Be Well movement is to build that network of care. And so they can get connected to other resources in the community as well. The residential programs vary. So most of them are, so for the mental health care levels, it's 1 to 2 weeks. And then for the substance use treatment programs, it's 30 to 90 days. And then there is a longer withdrawal management program that's about a 7 to 10 day stay. So someone could potentially be in here for 90 plus days if they go through several levels of care.
Okay, great. And then this is a shared residential space. I think there was a question about, were there considerations for future expansion? And so the program originally started, and the vision was to have a continuum of care. And as part of the continuum of care, that includes outpatient services. And originally, when this project was permitted, we weren't really allowed to have comprehensive outpatient services. And so that was part of the programming, was to provide continuum of care with crisis residential and then social services. But the way that the plan has evolved, there is some space for future expansion should outpatient services be allowed, and we're able to accommodate them in the future. And I think, Lauren, particularly the shared space, you guys have kind of already evolved some ideas for how you would use this and how this could support potential future services, right?
This is my favorite area of the building. What you can't see here that you would see if you came for a tour is that this area, we originally thought of this as the clients that are in the residential programs that on the second and third floor could come down to this area, which is in the middle of the first floor, and have additional program space. With the way that our licensing system works for mental health programs, they are not, it's kind of an antiquated system of thinking about healthcare and how people recover. So they could not wrap their heads around how you could license something on two different levels. So we kind of scratched that idea. And what we did was we started thinking about this as an expansion area. It has, what you can see here is that it has its own separate entry. So there's an entry at the back there's a parking lot at the back and the front of the building. And you can enter into this area directly from the back parking lot. And when you enter in, there's this beautiful welcome desk that has the Be Well logo on the back. And then right next to that is a large conference room, a smaller conference room, a couple of offices. There's a bathroom right off of it. And then there's this space, which is this living room, dining room area. And then next to that breakfast bar that you see there is a full kitchen. So this could be it's almost like a little conference center. And it could be used for that. And I'm sure we will use it for that. And then it can also be used as an expansion area for people who complete treatment and need some outpatient therapy or want to come back for maybe an alumni group or an AA meeting or something like that. It's provided an opportunity for us to think about what happens after, and could people still remain connected to this important part of their recovery.
Okay, and then
I want to answer one of the questions just very quickly in the chat about telepsych. So when we were first thinking about this, in pre-COVID, we weren't really thinking about telepsych, but we ended up having a building that is beautifully designed for telepsych. This is one of the conference rooms, and you can see that there's a TV in there. There's a TV in every conference room, and they're all wired to plug your laptop in and stuff like that. But during COVID, we actually built this during COVID, broke ground in October of 2019, and then completed construction January 2021. So this was a complete COVID construction project. And little shout out to Chad. I see Chad's on here from Snyder Langston, and he's one of my heroes. His team built this building and just did a really amazing job in a pandemic. And the building ended up being very, very suited to telepsych. So in every program, there is telepsych capability. And there are a lot of offices and spaces where there are meeting areas, not as large as this, but where you could do a smaller telepsych session. So even though it wasn't something that we were thinking about initially, it turns out that it was designed actually to accommodate that. Hi, Chad.
great.
Again.
Yeah, hi Chad. Jump in if you want to contribute anything as well, by all means. And this is the upper levels, the residential floors. As I indicated earlier, these are laid out very similar. I think that what was successful about these is for licensing purposes, they're 15-bed units at a max, and these are pretty compact units. You can see like the rooms just kind of wrap around in a U shape, and that means that the clients don't have to traverse long hallways, and that there's a good proximity to group therapy and the heart of the program, which is living in communal space. And so that actually is really effective in keeping kind of this residential non-institutional feel. And this is the lobby to the residential units, and we developed kind of this detail with the soffit and the doors, trying to create a little bit more residential portal. And Lauren will talk a little bit about the care happens here and how this was developed from a brand standpoint.
Yeah, we worked with, I had pulled together during the earlier design phase when we were thinking about colors and fabrics and things like that for inside the building. We pulled together a group of people who are in the mental health care system, so often called consumers or peers, people that have been through mental health treatment in places like this, these levels of care. Some were still in care. And we talked through some of the design with them. We wanted their feedback. We wanted to know their thoughts about certain areas and certain colors, and their thoughts about some of this wording. And in these elevator lobbies, so the first, second, and third floor, as you exit the elevator, there you get to see this wall wrap. And that consumer group helped us to design these. Originally, this was going to be something that was all of the colors of the Be Well logo was pretty bright. And this group said to us, first of all, take red out of everything. Don't use red. We don't like it. It's overstimulating. It's just a bad color. And then we went to this more muted color. So every floor has a word like this. This is the second floor. So this is the care happens here. And the blue is taken. It's actually one of the colors that's from our Be Well color palette from our logo. And then the third floor is more of the oranges. So it's oranges and peach, and it's the healing happens here. And then the first floor is another color from the Be Well palette. And that is the hope happens here lobby. And so they helped us to pick out different colors and to design these. They also, all of the conference rooms, every conference room and group room has in addition to having a room number on there, has a name. So they named all of the group rooms. So some of them are the hope room or the comfort room or the inspiration room. And there's a little footprint of the actual users there. So we're really proud of this piece. I just love how this lobby turned out. It's very inviting as you walk in. And if you think about, you come up this elevator and you're going into a program where you're probably going to live for the next 30 days, and you're going to have to be vulnerable, and it's terrifying with a bunch of strangers. And you walk out of the elevator and there's this great positive message. There are nice chairs, good lighting. It feels very comforting and warm, not scary.
This is a living room space on the second floor. Each unit has a communal living room type space and a variety of seating, kind of different niches, and then access to patio or outdoor area with lots of windows. We try to create using kind of built-ins to create some opportunity for more private seating as well as open seating as part of the communal area. And then the kitchen really is the heart of that area. In this program, the residents, they cook together, they eat together, and so this space is heavily used as part of the program. They actually prepare their own meals as part of the program. And then this is the outdoor patios. Those are located just outside of the living areas, the communal areas. They've got outdoor seating. We took into consideration the security by really trying to get that glazing up tall. Even still, there's some concerns with security, and so these would be monitored outdoor areas from a safety standpoint typically, but provide great visual connectivity between the residential programs. And then as you move back into the unit towards the resident room, this is a transition area just outside of the resident rooms, and it provides an opportunity for the residents who don't want to be in their rooms, but also maybe aren't feeling social enough to be out in the communal area. They can grab a book and sit in this niche and be part of the unit, but not necessarily out in that community area. It also seconds as a perch in the night shift in the evenings when staff needs to kind of have observation or connectivity to these units, but maybe doesn't want to be stationed at a formal station in kind of this observation mode. It's a little more casual type setting. And I know, Lauren, you were talking about kind of these niches yesterday when we spoke, and I wasn't able to find the photo of the one you were thinking about, but I don't know if you want to mention something about these niches.
Yeah, something that I love so much is that there's no wasted space in the building. So all of these little nooks and crannies and areas that maybe would be just a flat wall have become space that is usable. And the picture Darcy's referring to is the area where all the residential rooms are is in a horseshoe shape. All the bedrooms are on the outside, so every one of them has a window. And at the end of the hallways, there's an area, yeah, right there. There's an area that's just dead wall space. There's a window there, and then underneath the window, normally you would have nothing. And so what we did was we put a sofa there and a little table, so that even that area that would typically not be anything is a usable little nook area that looks very, very nice and has a comfy sofa where people can just sit and chat and read a book, or that maybe they don't want to be in the great room area with 15 other people, but they also don't want to be in their bedroom. So they have these other places that they can sit. There are other design pieces that I love about just using every inch of space. There's on each of the units, there's a little hallway that goes from the program, the residential area to the exit, the stairwell. And so go into the yellow, yeah, right there. And so there's nothing there. It's literally a little hallway to the stairwell exit. And what we did was we built in a whole lot of cabinets, that just this floor to ceiling cabinets that added extra space. So even that area, there's usable space there that's functional and that provides something that's really of value, because there's never enough storage area and there's never enough offices. And so there's also offices tucked in everywhere, even in the crisis unit, down the hallway where you walk from the entry to the units, there's an office and a bathroom tucked in there. So all the space got used really, really well.
Okay. And I know and here are the resident rooms. Each room's got dual occupancy, a little seating niche, a nightstand, a reading light, and a wardrobe. And these are the resident washrooms. And I think what kind of sets them apart is they're while they have all the anti-ligature products and the faucets and the toilets, which created a lot of challenges and coordination, we still maintained a very hotel-like look at the end of the day, which is soothing and comforting.
Wait, go back. So
sure.
this is a bathroom in a mental health program. So this is at the level, this could be in a prison. That's the level of anti-ligature in here is equivalent to what would be in a prison. So this is a bathroom where someone could be in there and close the door and we could feel 100% safe, and it is beautiful. It's really, really gorgeous. This is going to be the nicest space that a lot of people that come into these programs have really ever been in. And each bedroom is 2 to a room, and each has their own bathroom. So you're not sharing if you're in this program, you're not sharing a bathroom with 10 other people like in a dorm room.
Right. We've learned a lot through this project. We started the project. I don't know that we always knew exactly what was going to be required by all the programs, because a lot of the operators didn't come on until the end. And so we've learned a lot from that process. I think some of the biggest lesson takeaways from our end is really clear, strong communication and documentation around the security needs and ligature resistant requirements, even communicating it so much with the local jurisdiction to be able to inform them and let them know what they're looking at, more pictures on the drawing so that they know why it's different than a typical building. Bringing on the operational team early, particularly the security vendor, was probably a good one. And then all of the details, yes, you've got to get that big picture right. It's really important that we get the big picture right, and it destigmatizes care, and that it's a warm, welcoming space. But also at the end of the day, it's the small details that really support the operations. Those matter. Yeah,
when we were looking through these slides, I was saying to Darcy, the timeline was really important for us to look at for our next project. So we are, this campus is the first of 3. And the next campus that we're going to be building for Be Well is in Irvine, and we have 22 acres of land there. So we're talking about, yeah, a whole new conceptualization of what we can do. And the most important thing when we think about what's the construction, the timeline that the design and the architect team and the construction team factors into the project. And we think of it as when people move in or you get your occupancy certificate, all of those teams leave. And in the case of our building, because it's such a unique building, and once we moved in and we started to play with the functionality and then get patients and clients in and actually see how it functioned, we kept calling the team back to help us to think through some adjustments, because how we had guided them with what we wanted in the beginning, there were things that came up that we weren't aware of, like this door for functionality should open this way instead of this way. And maybe that door is on a 2-hour rated room. So changing the door isn't just a matter of flipping the frame, it's a whole construction piece. And I know that thinking about when we're thinking about the next project, what I said to Darcy is we have to put the timeline of being able to have access to you and your team and our construction team as post-occupancy as well, so that there's the expectation that we're respectful of the need to continue to have this level of experts with us as we maybe want to change things once we're in. Hopefully that made sense, but I think that it's such a unique team that we had. We felt really, really bonded with the team that designed and built this building. And then when we ran into some of these issues where we were like, oh, maybe we thought about this being functional this way, but it really needs to change, we wanted our team back again, because those are the people that we have high trust with and we rely on. And we wanted them to be part of the steps that happened after move-in.
Yeah, special thanks to Snyder Langston and Chad, as well as Matthew Whitcomb from the Boulder Associates team and Cassie Hammerschmidt. They have been working with Lauren for the last year. This is the Irvine campus. Well, it was a conceptual design for the Irvine campus. I think a lot of you have been exposed to this project through, I know that Cal Poly presented at the last AIA Healthcare Committee, and they did some tremendous work, very inspirational work around visualizing and looking at what this campus could become. And Rosie Adams, who's with Mind OC, I don't think she was able to be here today, but she's heading up kind of the programming and leading the design effort around this, along with Lauren and the facilities team and a lot of other folks. And we're just getting going on conceptualizing this campus. It's a team effort with Boulder Associates and Gensler, as well as all the resources that Mind OC brings to the table. So this campus will be a little bit different because, one, we have a lot more land to work with. Two, there will be a lot of emphasis on expanding the services to beyond kind of some of the clinical services and really focusing on community wellness. And how we provide more integrated services, and outpatient program will be a big part of this campus as well. So I think we've got a little bit of time left, not much, but maybe we can answer some more questions.
Yeah, so hey, thank you, Darcy and Lauren. It was just so inspiring to see, and so great to see the final product too. So thank you for sharing the pictures. I know Lauren and Darcy, I think you guys were trying to respond to the questions in the chat as we went. I'm going to try to pull out the ones that didn't get addressed. And I'd like to ask if the person who typed it, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question directly. So it looks like Mila, I think you had 2 questions. So would you like to unmute yourself and ask those?
Yeah, sure. Hello. Let's see. Well, I had one was just a compliment because it looks so dang good. The other one was basically balancing the non-institutional way of designing, trying to make it warm and comfortable while still keeping people safe, because, the considerations of possibly a chair being thrown or something like that, how is that those decisions balanced out in the spaces?
Lauren, I'd love your perspective on this too, but I'll say one thing is you all know as designers that ligature-resistant products, I mean, they're not always lovely. They're hard to come by products that are aesthetically supportive of and conducive to this idea of destigmatizing. So there, we, Boulder Associates, has done a lot of mental health and behavioral health facilities and used a lot of different ligature-resistant products. It took a lot of effort to really scour through them all to find the right ones that would fit. And I know that, Chad, probably you're kicking us over some of the fixtures, the plumbing fixtures we selected for the bathrooms, because there was a lot of constructability coordination around that. So it was a fine balance. I also think that, Marshall and Lauren's leadership was incredible on this. They were really able to come with a level head around, okay, well, we're not going to solve for every solution. We need to balance it. We need to weigh the situation. We need to keep people safe and secure. But, at the end of the day, if it can't support the vision and the mission and provide for a conducive environment to support care, we failed. And so there was a lot of discussion around that as well as we designed.
Yeah, we also paid attention to what level of behavioral health type furniture do you need for the different levels of care. So for example, on the first floor where you have very, very high acuity level, the clients need the highest level of safety there. There was a lot of big, heavy, bulky furniture and the furniture that's weighted down and things like that. As you go higher in the second and the third floor, there's still anti-ligature things that needed to be considered, but the furniture didn't need to be the heavy behavioral health type furniture. So that helped a lot because there's more choice with the furniture for just for regular healthcare, non-anti-ligature. So the level of what type of patient will be in that unit was a huge consideration. And I think probably Matthew's on here somewhere, one of these squares, but you'll remember well, Matt, the struggle we had in finding an anti-ligature window blind for the building. And it took a long time for us to come to the solution that we found. And it was an expensive solution that had to require some building changes, but it was a really important aspect because we couldn't have blinds on the windows that had the pull string. And if anyone can find a really awesome anti-ligature window covering, please let us know for the next building. Matt, you unmuted. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, nothing specific. It's a sequencing thing, more or less. Aesthetically is one thing, but sequencing them into construction is a whole nother game. So yeah, if anybody finds anything, feel free to email us.
Yeah, we're still looking for a better option.
All right, great. Christopher Dion, I think you had a question. You could unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think it was answered a bit about how people get here. It's a diverse modes to get here, police and ambulance, but also family or support network delivery. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes.
So depending on the different levels of care, some of it is police, ambulance, hospitals. Those are primarily for the crisis, the critical care levels. But any community member can now call and get care at the Be Well campus. Initially, because of COVID, we restricted who could refer people in, and now it's pretty open.
Thanks. And my follow-up was, if this is hard to find a good location for these, or if there's an ideal setting.
if you're looking for co-locating services, I think in Orange County it's difficult to find the right location. But I also have seen and witnessed that if you find a location that's not ideal and is next to the freeway, that if you have a really amazing design and construction team, you can do it.
Well, this looks like a great project.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
but
presentation.
ideally, an area that has more green space would be better. We don't have a lot of green space, although our outdoor areas are really beautiful. But at the Irvine location, where we have the luxury of space, which is very unusual in Orange County, we have 22 acres of land there. And so we will have an opportunity to use green space and have more outdoor therapeutic areas.
Yeah, and to the point about the adjacent to the freeway, a shout out to William Chu and his team who did the acoustical design on this project. We worked really hard to try to find a glazing system that was able to mitigate the noise from the 57 freeway, particularly where there were residential rooms. On the third floor, we were able to pull the residential rooms off of that side of the building, but on the second floor, due to programmatic needs and space constraints, we weren't. And that team and Snyder Langston as well worked in conjunction with us to really come up with the right window assembly. And when you sit in those rooms, it's pretty good. It's pretty amazing because we did not want that acoustical noise to really impact the treatment process.
And that question might have segued nicely to Drew's question about acoustics.
Yeah, thanks, Hundi. And boy, what an impressive project. So congrats to all on that. Yeah, part of that was answered. You hear so much about concerns about acoustics in healthcare these days. And I was wondering, outside of external noise coming in, were there any particular finishes or designs associated with acoustics?
I think
mostly go ahead, Lauren.
I was going to talk about the quiet rooms. Is that what you were going to say, Darcy? Yeah, go ahead on that.
No, I was going to talk about some of the material selections. So you go ahead on the quiet room and I'll jump in about a couple material things.
Yeah, in each of the crisis units, so we have one for adults and one for adolescents, there has to be what's actually a restraint room, but now we call them quiet rooms. Again, less stigmatizing, but the quiet rooms have to have certain design. They can't be something that a patient can kick into the wall. If a patient is screaming in there, it has to dampen the sound. And so that was a whole other design with getting those to be 2-hour rated. I'm sure Darcy can say that more articulately.
No, that was perfect. And then also the STC rating was consideration between the resident rooms and the partition design internally, as well as, and I wish Cassie was on the line because she could speak more eloquently about this, but I know she looks closely at like the flooring and having acoustic backed products and that sort of thing to mitigate some of dampen some of the internal noise as well.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
All right, Suzanne Stahl, I think you had a question about access for the homeless. If you're still on, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question. I don't know if Suzanne's still on. Well, I'll read her question. It's, what is access like for homeless and how do you integrate that population?
Yeah, so this is a question that we do get asked a lot. So our campus is not designed specifically for a homeless population, but we also know that a lot of people who get brought into these levels of care are either homeless or they're in a not a great housing situation. So we're working with, we have built relationships over the last year with housing providers, shelters, and particularly with transitional housing and permanent housing providers, so that if we get someone in who is not well housed or is homeless, that we will attempt to connect them very, very quickly into a system to try to get them housed, because we know that, you know, having a home helps people to stay stable. So that is a significant piece of, probably more related to the aftercare than to how people come in. But we are not specifically a homeless providing organization.
Great. So there's just a couple more questions. I think we're running a little bit over, but if y'all can stick with us. Taylor Montgomery at Patcraft, can you unmute yourself? Looks like you were also part of the team.
Hi, Taylor.
Hi, how are you? Yes, from a flooring standpoint, I'm with Patcraft. So we're the manufacturer for almost actually all of the flooring from a shot industry standpoint throughout this project. So it's been really wonderful working with the team from beginning to installation and throughout. But my question was really also about how this will be a benefit and alleviate the other health systems, or how you guys plan to work together, such as Kaiser, UCI, Providence, if they'll be able to refer OC residents to Be Well and just kind of play off one another for the strengths that each is offering, since this is such a collaborative joint venture.
Yeah, so we think about the customers for this building are the clients who come in for care and their families, of course. And our customers are also law enforcement and first responders and hospitals and healthcare systems. Those are the groups that will be bringing people into this campus. And so we've actually spent the last probably 18 months working with the hospital systems, including Kaiser, and with our law enforcement partners to develop the referral pathways into this campus. And so I'm on the phone every day with the hospital teams around Orange County and with our law enforcement partners, because if you think about us, what we're building is a continuum of care. So the hospitals are part of that continuum, and we're part of that continuum, and then the housing providers are part of that. And so we have developed very, very strong bidirectional referral relationships, which means we refer to them and they refer to us. The purpose of everything really on the first floor of this building is to relieve hospital emergency rooms from having to treat mental health patients or people who come in purely because they're intoxicated. So our goal is to be the provider for that, because we specialize in that level of care, and the hospitals specialize in what they're really great at, which is the medical, the physical healthcare aspect, and emergency care that is more of a physical nature. So our goal is to really alleviate the burden of the mental health care costs on the hospital system, which means we need more and more of these campuses.
Absolutely. And then last question, unless anybody else has, please type in the chat, or I don't know if you could raise your hand in Zoom, but William, also somebody else who participated in the project. I see that you had a question.
Yeah, I was, well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to work on this project. But I do want to ask, with all these different agencies, you know, there must have been some points when people were, or standards were not in line with each other. And I'm wondering if you might be able to share an example of how you got past that.
Yeah, I saw your question. I love this question so much. So the answer to were there differing views? Yes, there were. And did we have to make compromises? Yes. And then there's some areas where we couldn't make compromises because something had to be a certain way in order to meet some kind of regulatory requirement. But yes, there were a lot of cooks that came into designing this project. And so the part of your question is, how were financial decisions made? A lot of that was negotiated early on so that we wouldn't run into this as much. We were partially successful in that. And along the way with the project, there were changes that were made, big changes that were made mid construction that we had to figure out the funding and partnership. And so there was a lot of work that was done in meetings and trying to work together to come to a common ground on different things. But I think, and Darcy and her team were just very integral in this piece, because sometimes when one of your funding partners says we want it to be this way, you bring in your team, your design team, and they say for you that it can't be that way because of fire code or whatever. So that it's very, very helpful to have experts in that area. But I think generally the partners came to this project with a general theoretical agreement on what the meaning of this project would be. And so that created a culture of how we went forward that definitely helped, so that there was probably less friction than maybe you would imagine with so many partners.
Yeah, and I think financially the project was really very successful, even though there were on the day-to-day there was some pushing and pulling. I believe the overall project budget was $40 million, and we came in about 38 million, and some of the money that was remaining was able to get moved to support the second project. So that's all positive.
Yes. Yep.
And it was a successful project. A couple more questions just rolled in. Deanna, you had a question about licensing?
Yeah, hi. Thanks. What a great presentation and great project. Thank you. I learned so much, and it's such an exciting connection of services. I was wondering what the licensing process was with the residential facility and the outpatient facilities working together, and with all the different agencies involved. Did you guys have any challenges, or was it pretty straightforward?
So there are several licensing agencies that were involved in this. Part of it is the county healthcare agency for Medi-Cal certification, and then one of the four residential programs, so 2 on the second floor, 2 on the third floor. On the second floor, one of the programs is licensed by Community Care Licensing, which is an Orange County arm of Department of Social Services. And then the other program on the same floor and the 2 on the third floor are licensed by Department of Healthcare Services. So that's Sacramento based. And so you have two different programs on one floor that are licensed by 2 different entities, which means that at no point ever can any of those clients ever cross paths. So we had to figure out how to not commingle people. And in the beginning, we were thinking about, we need to do this schedule and that schedule, and we made it so complicated, it was very stressful. And eventually we figured out that it actually is a little bit easier than you think. Once we got the licensing representatives to actually come on site and walk through, they could see that, for example, there's 2 elevators on each floor. So there could be separation there. And we put some security features in place where, for example, no one can go up an elevator floor without swiping a security badge. And so that helped as well. But yes, the no commingling, that is part of the licensing, just their culture, was a challenge. And we had to work with them to gain trust and convince them that we could manage that internally. So that was the biggest challenge. And the other challenge is that it was trying to get them to license a program on 2 floors so that we could use that first floor space as an expansion of the residential area. And that was too much of a challenge for them, which is why we decided to eventually exclude that from the license space. So the reason you want as much space to be under the license as possible is if there is clinical care that happens outside of a licensed space, the program providers can't charge for it. So they can only bill for services that are provided within the space that's included in the license. So we had to adapt.
Thank you.
And then I think the last question is from Damer. I don't know if I said your name right. I apologize. I think you had a few questions.
Just had a question about what the city, county, or state of California had committed to this, because I would assume you're taking a pretty large burden off the state with a facility like this. And we encountered this a lot. You know, we encountered it with Denver Cares, for example, as a facility that comes to mind with that we've had familiarity with. And it's very difficult to relocate, which is why I said the first question, which is anywhere we try to propose that we move this, they're like, no, not in my backyard. I can't do it there. You can't put it there. So we just, I wonder if there's state kind of crutches or whatever that helped with this project, because we certainly need their help too on our project.
Yeah, so what did help a lot is the fact that the land belongs to the county. And so the county gets to say what the land is used for, but also that the county contributed financially, in addition to giving us a long-term land lease. The county contributed financially to this project because we have county contracted programs on site. So the county is one of our biggest partners. For the Irvine property, that is also county land. And so it's a similar situation where we were able to get that location because the county was able to create a lease with us, a land lease for it. So I think that every county is very, very different. And the best way to do it is to probably begin with a project that is on a county-owned land. But if you're still working with that group, you should have them, or you should have them touch base with our CEO, Marshall. He is the person who negotiated all of this and would be able to give a lot more detail than I am involved in. And he would be a very, very good resource for this group if they're exploring this option.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for tonight. I wanted to thank Lauren and Darcy, Matthew, Deirdre for your time today. I mean, what an amazing project. It's so needed. I think all of our counties are looking to solve these issues, and it's so great to see how Orange County has done it with Be Well and MyNosi, just a very creative solution, and to see all these entities working together. So amazing. I'd like to give everybody a second to unmute so that we can give our speakers a round of applause. Just a second. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.